Hey guys, so today we're going to show you how to do the front brake, and the rear brake's the same, but we're going to change the SRAM front brake pads. We've got a problem with this one. You might have had it before. When we pull the front brake on, it's squealing and it's lasting for maybe 10-20 seconds after you let the brake off, and it's still squealing. Needs adjustment in how the caliper is set up on the disc. So we're going to show you how to set that caliper up, how to do the adjustment on the brake so that it operates well. But let's show you. Now we're going to take the caliper off, we're going to check the pads. So we're going to loosen the caliper bolts. The holes in the caliper are elongated so that the caliper can move sideways, and we can set up the gap on the pads to the disc. Got movement there in the disc and in the caliper. So what we're going to do is take the pads out now. It's got a fail-safe circlip on the end of the bolt. It'll come in from the other side of the wheel. I'll grab that circlip off there, just pulls off. Okay, so I didn't have that too tight. I don't like tightening up bolts too tight, and I certainly don't like thread locker, because I've found in the past that if you put thread locker on and you tighten bolts up too tight, you end up breaking the whole mechanism. So instead of just having a problem with the bolt coming loose, which even if it comes loose, the fail-safe of the circlip stops it coming right out, you're not going to lose your pads. The biggest problem is having that bolt seize in there and you can't get it out. You end up stripping the head with an Allen key, and then you've got a major problem to try and get the caliper apart just to put pads in again. So I don't like to put too much pressure on things. Don't do them up too tight. Rely on the fail-safe of the circlip so that if it does come loose, I've never had one come loose before. If you have, maybe do it up a little bit tighter. But I've done 10,000 Ks on this bike. In that time, I've never had it come loose. And there's the bolt out. Now the pads come out with the spring itself, and you'll see the springs hold the pads from the inside. So what I'm seeing here, if you can see it as well, is the pads have been wearing on one end rather than evenly. So just need to adjust the caliper so that it's even, but I'm going to put a new set of pads in this. You can see the difference there in the thickness of the pads. The new ones are quite thick. The worn out ones, there's almost nothing left. You can see the spring has actually been the issue with the noise, and now that the pad is so thin, it's actually hitting the spring now on the disc, and that's probably where most of that noise is coming from. So it's just at that point, just to let you know that the pads are extremely thin now and it's time for a new set. Brakes were still working fine, but the sound's annoying. So yeah, looks like this is the issue. We'll just put new pads in, and it's about time anyway. If you can see the inside of this caliper, and you've got the pistons, we need to get them out, clean around them so that they're going to go in and out. At the moment, they won't go back in any further. What I'm going to do is put the Allen key in there, pump the brake lever. Just got to really press it in. It's coming out there now. Now I've got the other side coming out. Just took a bit of pressure to really get them there. I think they're really quite gummed up. So I'm just holding pressure on them now. Give them a good clean with some wax and grease remover, and then we'll lube them up. Got to get in from both sides as well. Don't ever do this with the with no block or pin between them. You don't want them to come out, because otherwise you'll have to bleed the brakes again. So just giving them a really good clean around the pistons, and I'll clean right down in between both sides as well, just so we got around those pistons nice and clean. Once we get some lube on them, they should free up and should move in and out as they should, but they were quite stuck. So this bike's done 10,000 Ks since they've been out. These pistons have been out like this. So it's just well and truly time to give them a good clean and get those pistons actually operating free again, and lubrication, and we'll push them back in, and then hopefully they'll be free to give us full ability of the brake again. Give that a good wipe. So just going to clean down in between as well. Quite grotty in there as well. And around the back of them if we can. So now I'm just going to run a little bit of oil around there, and that's going to help them just go back in smooth, and hopefully we'll get really good operation on those pistons now. Hopefully they'll stay right out to the outward point. We're just going to try and compress those now. Let's use a screwdriver, push them back out. See how they've gone back out. Pull the Allen key back out. It's pushed out, pushed out. Okay, so I'm just going to loosen the bleed screw a fraction, and I think there's going to be a little bit of fluid coming out of that because I think that's what's stopping the pistons going all the way back to the outer part of the caliper. So hopefully we'll get more push on this. Yep. That's got those side pistons out so much further now, and we've got oil dripping out of the bleeder screw as I pushed them, so it was just so full of fluid it had nowhere to go, so the pistons couldn't go as far out as they needed to. So just make sure you haven't got too much fluid in. I'll just let that out a little bit just to relieve the pressure so I can get those pistons right back out to the outside. Just use a bigger screwdriver just to really get them out. Got to get them right back out flush to the outside edge of the caliper. So you can see I got the pistons all the way out to the edge now. Took a fair bit of pushing. I had to put pliers onto it. I wrapped some tape around the pliers so I could really squeeze them hard, but it took a fair bit of squeezing and I lost a little bit of oil out of the top of the reservoir. Set up for the thinner pads, I think, and the thicker pads just didn't have room for the brake fluid to go anywhere, so they just wouldn't go in. So now they're all the way out, so now we'll be able to fit the new pads in between. Okay, so I'm going to put the brake pads in. I'm just going to give the springs a little spread. I'm just going to bend those springs out a little bit further. There you go, so you can see we've got a fair bit of spread on that spring now. So when it goes in, it'll fully release off the disc. Just give it a little bit more pressure just so the pistons will push, but that will rebound. Pop those in. Put the screw through, retainer screw. We need to make sure the disc is in line with the center of the caliper. So we've got the line on the center of the caliper there and there, and we need to make sure that's just centered up on there before we do it up. And then we need to make sure that the pistons come in evenly on either side of the pads. Just firm. Put the retainer clip on, clip on, so we don't have any issues in the future with it falling out. Now we just want to set up the pads onto the disc just exactly central. So we need to pump the lever a bit and make sure the pistons are coming in evenly. If they're not, we'll just force them over with the screwdriver. Make sure they come in evenly on one side, evenly on the other side. So I've got the two caliper bolts done up nice and tight now, and the lines of the center of the caliper are directly in line with the center of the disc. And now we're just going to work those pistons in place. We've tightened up the oil cap on the top of the reservoir. So we're right to go. Here we go. You can see that operating there now. It's going right down on the disc and spreading apart nicely because of those springs. It's got a little bit more pre-tension on those springs. Should be a really good brake now. And then after a little bit of riding, just give it a tweak. You might have to loosen them off after you've used your brake a few times and just make sure it's centered. So we've got good brake feel on that lever, and also that wheel spins free without any binding whatsoever of the pads until you pull the lever on. Beautiful. Great brake. Hope that's helped, guys, and enjoy your riding. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you really learned something out of it today. If you did, please subscribe and that'll help me get more videos out for you. I really pray that God blesses you and keeps you safe when you're out there on the trails. And just remember one thing, ride hard.